Girl's sugar levels crashed dangerously low, but her Labrador's clever action led to a miracle. The early summer evening draped the suburban streets of Cedar Park, a sprawling, family-friendly enclave just northwest of Austin, Texas, in hues of soft lavender and dusky rose. Fireflies, nature's own gentle lanterns, blinked into existence in the rapidly cooling air, their ephemeral dance a counterpoint to the distant, rhythmic symphony of crickets and cicadas tuning up for their nightly performance. Inside the welcoming two-story home of the Henderson family, an altogether different, more exuberant symphony was in full swing. The sound of children's laughter, the clatter of board game pieces, and the excited, overlapping chatter of 8-year-old Lily Allister and her best friend, Chloe Henderson. For Lily, this wasn't just any Friday night. It was the pinnacle of her young social calendar, her very first sleepover. Lily, a sprite of a girl with a cascade of auburn curls and eyes that sparkled with an infectious zest for life, managed her type 1 diabetes with a quiet courage that often awed the adults around her. Her constant companion, a 2-year-old yellow Labrador retriever named Marley, was more than just a pet or even a service dog. He was her shadow, her confidant, her furry, 4-legged guardian angel. Marley's official blue service vest, neatly embroidered with "Medical Alert Dog Diabetes," usually signaled his working status, but tonight it lay folded in Lily's overnight bag. He was off duty, officially, though his innate vigilance never truly slept. He lay sprawled comfortably on the plush rug in Chloe's brightly decorated bedroom, his amber eyes following Lily's every move, his tail giving a contented thump-thump against the floor whenever Lily's laughter peeled through the room. The bond between Lily and Marley was a tapestry woven with threads of daily routines, shared secrets, and an unspoken, profound understanding. Marley had entered Lily's life as a gangly, oversized puppy, specifically chosen and trained for his keen olfactory senses and gentle temperament. He had quickly learned to detect the almost imperceptible chemical shifts in Lily's breath and perspiration that heralded a dangerous dip or spike in her blood sugar levels, often alerting her parents, Mark and Sarah Allister, minutes before her continuous glucose monitor, CGM, registered the change. His alerts were usually a specific sequence of nudges, insistent licking of her hand, or a soft particular whine that was uniquely his "sugar level is off" alarm. Earlier that evening, Mark and Sarah had lingered at the Hendersons' doorway, their faces a mixture of parental pride at Lily's milestone and the ever-present undercurrent of anxiety that came with managing their daughter's condition. Mrs. Henderson, a warm, capable woman named Karen, had listened intently as Sarah meticulously went over Lily's emergency kit. The glucose meter, insulin pens for corrections, fast-acting glucose gels for lows, sugary snacks, and the bright orange case containing the glucagon emergency injection, the last resort for a severe hypoglycemic event. "Marley knows what to do too," Sarah had said, stroking the Labrador's soft head. "He'll let you know if anything's amiss. He's never wrong." Karen and her husband Tom had nodded, their expressions a blend of reassurance for the Allisters and a touch of their own nervousness at the responsibility. They were good friends, loving parents to Chloe, but this was their first time managing a child with such a serious medical condition overnight. The evening had unfolded with all the joyous chaos of a typical girls' sleepover. Pizza with extra cheese, an animated movie marathon fueled by popcorn. Lily had carefully measured her portion, her parents' lessons on carbohydrate counting well ingrained, and endless rounds of a fantasy board game that involved dragons, princesses, and daring rescues. Lily, caught up in the excitement and the rare freedom of being away from her parents' watchful eyes, perhaps indulged a little more than usual, her activity levels higher, her adherence to her strict snack schedule a fraction less precise. Marley, ever observant, seemed to sense these subtle deviations, occasionally nudging Lily's hand with his wet nose as if to remind her. But he also seemed to understand her need for this unbridled joy, his tail wagging in shared delight at her peals of laughter. By 10:30 p.m., both girls, exhausted but happy, were tucked into their sleeping bags on Chloe's bedroom floor. Lights out. Whispers and giggles soon faded into the soft, even breathing of sleep. Marley, after a final reassuring lick to Lily's outstretched hand, settled onto his designated soft rug beside her, his body a warm, comforting presence in the dim glow of a unicorn-shaped nightlight. The Henderson house sank into the profound quiet that only descends after midnight, a quiet punctuated by the gentle hum of the central air conditioning and the occasional rustle of leaves in the sprawling oak tree outside the window. It was around 3:17 a.m., in that deepest part of the night when the world seems to hold its breath, that Marley's internal alarm system, a biological marvel of scent detection and unwavering devotion, began to sound its silent, urgent siren. His head, which had been resting on his paws, snapped up, his ears swiveled, nostrils flaring as he sampled the air around Lily. His tail, just moments before relaxed, now gave a single, tense thump. He rose silently, a golden shadow in the near darkness, and moved to Lily's side. He nuzzled her face, a soft questioning whine, a mere breath of sound. Lily, lost in the depths of a childhood dream, didn't stir. Her skin, he sensed through his sensitive nose, was cooler than it should be, and a faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through her small frame. He licked her hand, then her cheek, more insistently. She mumbled incoherently, turning her head slightly, but her eyes remained closed, her breathing shallow and a little too rapid. The telltale scent, a faint, sickly sweet yet acrid odor that Marley was exquisitely trained to associate with plummeting blood sugar, was undeniably present and growing stronger. This wasn't a minor dip that could be corrected with a juice box in the morning. This was a hypoglycemic crash, swift and silent, stealing Lily away while the world slept. Marley's training protocols, drilled into him since puppyhood, clicked into place. Unresponsive human, alert level, critical. He nudged Lily's shoulder again, harder this time, using the side of his muzzle. Nothing. He pawed at her arm, a more forceful action now, accompanied by a series of low, urgent whines meant to penetrate her unresponsiveness. Still, Lily remained lost to the encroaching metabolic storm. He knew the next step, the emergency kit. It was on the nightstand beside Chloe's bed, exactly where Mrs. Henderson had placed it after her final check-in. Marley padded over, his large frame moving with surprising stealth. He located Lily's distinctive bright pink backpack by scent, nudged it with his nose until it tipped, spilling its contents. He ignored the storybook, the small flashlight, the hair ties. His target was the small zippered pouch with the Red Cross emblem. He picked it up gently in his soft mouth, a familiar weight, a familiar task. He returned to Lily, dropped the pouch by her still hand, and nudged it towards her, then nudged her hand towards the pouch, whining with a growing, desperate edge to his voice. But Lily's hand was limp, her face pale and beaded with a cold sweat in the dim light. She was far beyond self-administering the life-saving glucose gel within. Marley knew he needed adult intervention. Immediately, he looked at Chloe, sleeping soundly in her bed across the small room. He went to her, licked her face, nudged her shoulder. Chloe, a notoriously heavy sleeper, just grumbled and pulled her blanket higher. Marley let out a short, frustrated bark. Louder this time. Chloe mumbled something about quiet, Marley, and burrowed deeper. This was a critical juncture. He was in an unfamiliar house. The Hendersons were in a bedroom down a long, dark hallway. His usual methods of alerting Lily's parents, loud, persistent barking at their bedroom door, even jumping on their bed as a last resort, might be terrifying and misinterpreted by strangers. He needed to get them, but he needed to do it in a way that conveyed urgency without triggering aggression or fear towards him. A new level of intelligence, a spark of desperate ingenuity, seemed to ignite within him. He remembered, earlier that evening, when Lily's parents were explaining the emergency procedures to Karen and Tom Henderson, they had pointed to a small, unassuming white plastic box on the wall in the upstairs hallway, just outside the master bedroom. "This is a direct medical alert button," Mark Allister had explained, his voice serious. "If anything happens, anything at all, and you can't reach us or 911 immediately, press this red button. It sends an alert straight to an emergency monitoring service and dispatches paramedics. We had it installed when Lily was first diagnosed. It's linked to her medical records." He had even demonstrated, pressing it momentarily, a small green LED on the box lighting up, before quickly resetting it. Marley had been there, lying at Lily's feet, watching the humans with his usual quiet attentiveness. His head tilted. He had registered the action, the sound, the sudden focused attention of all the adults on that small white box. He hadn't been trained to use it. It was a human device, complex in its implications. But Labradors are not just products of training. They are highly intelligent, observant, and driven by an almost unparalleled desire to connect with and protect their chosen humans. Marley made a decision that transcended his programming. With a low, determined whine, he slipped out of the girl's bedroom and into the dark, silent hallway. His paws patted softly on the carpeted floor as he navigated by scent and memory. He found the white box on the wall, mounted at about chest height for an adult. It was too high for him to reach easily from the floor. He looked around, his intelligent eyes scanning for a solution. A small, decorative wooden bench sat against the opposite wall. In a display of remarkable problem-solving, Marley nudged the light bench with his head and shoulder, scraping it slowly, awkwardly, across the hallway until it was roughly positioned beneath the alert box. He then hopped onto the bench, a slightly unsteady movement for a dog of his size on a narrow surface. Reaching up, he pressed his wet, black nose firmly against the large red button. A soft, almost inaudible click, and then a tiny, reassuring beep. A small green LED on the box began to blink rhythmically in the darkness. He had done it. He had activated the human's emergency system. But Marley didn't stop there. He knew that an electronic signal was one thing, human action was another. Lily needed immediate, hands-on help. He jumped down from the bench and raced to the Hendersons' closed bedroom door. He didn't bark wildly, not yet. He started with what he knew, insistent, urgent scratching at the door, accompanied by high-pitched, anxious whines. When that didn't elicit an immediate response, he escalated, letting out a series of sharp, commanding barks. Barks that were undeniably an alarm, not a request for a late-night potty break. Inside the master bedroom, Tom Henderson was the first to surface from sleep. "What?" he mumbled, disoriented. "Karen, wake up. I think that's Marley." "Something's wrong." Karen Henderson shot upright in bed, her heart instantly seizing with a mother's dread. "Lily!" They stumbled out of bed, Tom fumbling for the light switch, and threw open their bedroom door. Marley was there, a frantic but controlled presence. He barked once more, a sharp, "Follow me," kind of bark, then spun and bolted back down the hallway towards the girls' room, looking over his shoulder to ensure they were coming. His urgency was electrifying. Marley, our incredible Labrador hero, has just performed an act of astounding intelligence, first triggering a silent medical alert, and now desperately trying to rouse the Hendersons. Lily's life is on a knife edge, every second critical. The ingenuity and devotion of this dog are already breathtaking, but the true extent of his life-saving actions is yet to be fully revealed. If you're already holding your breath for Lily and marveling at Marley's courage, please show your support for these Relatos Selvagans by hitting that like button. It tells us you want more stories of these amazing animal heroes. And we have to ask, what's the most intelligent thing you've ever seen a dog do in an emergency? Share your own incredible animal stories in the comments below. The desperate race to save Lily is far from over. The Hendersons, their adrenaline now surging, followed Marley's lead, their bare feet pounding on the hallway carpet. The scene that greeted them in Chloe's dimly lit bedroom was every parent's worst nightmare. Lily lay utterly still in her sleeping bag, her face a waxy pale color, her lips tinged with blue. Chloe, now awake and terrified, was sobbing beside her friend, shaking her shoulder, crying, "Lily, Lily, wake up." Karen Henderson, despite the fear that threatened to paralyze her, remembered the emergency training. "Get the kit, Tom. Her sugar must be critically low," she urged, her voice trembling as she knelt beside Lily, checking for a pulse, for breath. Lily was breathing shallowly, but she was completely unresponsive. Tom Henderson located Lily's pink backpack and frantically unzipped the emergency pouch. His hand shook so violently he could barely open the tube of glucose gel. Karen gently pried Lily's mouth open and squeezed a small amount of the sticky gel onto her gums, then rubbed her cheek, praying it would absorb quickly. "Call 911, Tom. We need paramedics now." Tom fumbled for his cell phone on the nightstand, his fingers clumsy with panic. He managed to dial 911, his voice cracking as he began to explain the situation to the dispatcher. My daughter's friend, Lily Allister. She's 8. Type 1, diabetes. Unresponsive. I think it's her sugar. He was barely halfway through explaining their address when the unmistakable, rapidly approaching wail of sirens cut through the night. Red and blue lights began to strobe through the bedroom window, painting the terrified faces in the room with an eerie, pulsating glow. Within seconds, there was a firm, urgent knocking at the front door. Tom stared at his phone in disbelief, the dispatcher still asking him to confirm the street name. They're here, he stammered into the phone. But how? I just called you. Karen, equally astounded but propelled by the urgency of the situation, ran to the front door and flung it open. 2 paramedics stood on the porch, their expressions calm and focused, their equipment bags already in hand. We received an automated life alert medical call from this address, ma'am, the lead paramedic said, already moving past her. Pediatric diabetic emergency registered to a Lily Allister. Where is she? They followed Karen back to the bedroom, their professionalism a stark contrast to the Hendersons' raw panic. They quickly assessed Lily, their movements efficient and reassuring. An IV line was started, vitals checked, a glucagon injection administered. Marley, who had been whining softly and nudging Lily's unresponsive hand, only moved aside when one of the paramedics gently but firmly guided him. Then he sat a few feet away, a silent, worried sentinel, his gaze never leaving Lily. The next few minutes stretched into an eternity. The paramedics worked, their voices low and calm, updating each other on Lily's status. Then, a flicker. Lily's eyelids trembled. She moaned softly. A collective, ragged gasp of relief went through the room. Color slowly began to seep back into her cheeks. Her breathing deepened, became more regular. Finally, her eyes opened, clouded with confusion at first, then focusing. "Mommy?" she whispered, her voice weak. The tension in the room snapped like an overstretched rubber band. Karen Henderson crumpled onto Chloe's bed, sobbing with relief. Tom leaned against the doorframe, his legs suddenly weak. Mark and Sarah Allister, Lily's parents, arrived then, having broken every speed limit after Karen's frantic, tearful call. They rushed to Lily's side, their faces a mixture of terror, relief, and overwhelming gratitude to the Hendersons and the swift-acting paramedics. It was only after Lily was fully conscious, stabilized, and demanding a juice box that the true miracle of the night began to unravel. One of the paramedics, while packing up his equipment, noticed the small white medical alert box in the hallway, its green light still blinking steadily. "This unit here," he said, pointing to it. "This is what sent the initial distress signal. We got the alert with all of Lily's critical medical information and your exact location about 5 minutes before your 911 call came through on the voice line, Mr. Henderson. That 5-minute head start, it likely made all the difference for Lily tonight. Did one of you press it in the initial panic?" Tom and Karen looked at each other bewildered. "No," Tom said slowly. "I was trying to wake Lily. Then I called 911 on my cell. Karen was with her. Chloe was asleep until Marley started barking like crazy to wake us up. Sarah Allister, Lily's mother, who had been listening with tears in her eyes, suddenly knelt down beside Marley. She'd seen the faint, damp smudge on the red button of the alert box when she'd arrived, but in the chaos hadn't processed its significance. Now it hit her with the force of a physical blow. She gently took Marley's large, soft paw in her hand, then looked at his wet nose. She remembered Mark demonstrating the button to the Hendersons, remembered Marley watching intently. "Marley," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, looking deep into his intelligent, loving eyes. "Was it you? Did you press that button for Lily?" Marley responded with a soft whine, a gentle lick to her hand, and then he nudged his head towards Lily, his tail giving a slow, happy thump against the floor. There was no other explanation. The Hendersons were asleep, Chloe was asleep, Lily was unconscious. Lily was... The automated alert had been triggered by the only other sentient, capable being in the vicinity, who understood on some profound level that Lily was in mortal danger and needed help beyond what he could provide alone. He had tried to wake Lily. He had tried to get her emergency gel. When those failed, he hadn't just escalated to waking the Hendersons. He had first, with astonishing foresight and problem-solving ability, activated the direct line to emergency services. His subsequent efforts to wake Tom and Karen were then not just a primary alert, but a crucial step to ensure there were conscious, capable adults ready to assist Lily and receive the paramedics he had already summoned. The room fell into a stunned, awestruck silence. The paramedics exchanged looks of disbelief. Lily's father, Mark, sank into a chair, covering his face with his hands, overwhelmed. Karen Henderson simply stared at Marley, tears now flowing freely for a different reason. Sheer, unadulterated wonder. The story of Marley's impossible actions, his understanding of the medical alert system, his multi-layered rescue plan executed flawlessly in an unfamiliar environment under extreme duress, became the stuff of local legend, then national news. The Labrador who called 911 was the simplified headline, but those who knew the full story understood it was so much more. It was about an intelligence that defied easy explanation, a loyalty that knew no bounds, and a love so profound it could quite literally move mountains, or at least figure out how to press an emergency button. Marley was celebrated, of course. He became an ambassador for diabetic alert dogs, his story inspiring countless other families. But for Lily, he was and always would be simply Marley, her best friend, her confidant, her furry, four-legged miracle worker, who, on one terrifying, rain-swept Texas night, had not only sensed her silent descent into danger, but had brilliantly, bravely, and single-handedly orchestrated her return to the light. His clever action was more than clever. It was a profound act of love and intelligence that redefined, for everyone who heard it, the true meaning of a helping paw and a loyal heart. The night the Anjo Caramello not only barked, but also thought his little girl back to life. Marley's incredible actions on that fateful night go beyond training, beyond instinct. They speak to a depth of understanding, problem-solving, and devotion that truly touches the miraculous. He wasn't just a service dog, he was Lily's lifeline, her silent, four-legged strategist who, in the face of a deadly threat, found a way. This lab of love, of unwavering loyalty, and almost human-like ingenuity reminds us that the heroes among us often have wagging tails and hearts, full of unconditional love. If Marley's story has filled you with awe and warmed your soul, please, let that feeling ripple outwards. Click the like button to celebrate this incredible Labrador. Share this story of hope and brilliance with everyone you know. And most importantly, subscribe to Relatos Selvagens and ring that notification bell. There are so many more tales of animal courage and extraordinary bonds waiting to be told, and we want you to be the first to hear them. We are truly humbled by stories like this, and your voice matters to our community. What was the most astonishing part of Marley's rescue mission for you? Do you have your own story of an animal's incredible intelligence or loyalty that you'd like to share? Please, pour out your heart in the comments below. Let's celebrate these amazing creatures together.